It was just another quiet Tuesday morning in Chicago. The kind of morning that felt like it would pass without drama. Sunlight creeping gently through the kitchen blinds, the hum of the kettle on the stove, and the soft giggle of Lily dancing around the breakfast table in her bunny slippers. Isabella Reyes, a 32-year-old pediatric nurse, poured cereal into a bowl, her eyes occasionally drifting to her daughter, who was humming the theme song of her favorite cartoon. "Slow, sweetheart, you don't want another stomachache at school," Isabella reminded gently. Lily grinned with a spoon in her hand. "I won't, Mommy, promise." Those little moments, grins, chatter, socks, mismatched, were the quiet treasures Isabella lived for. As a single mom juggling hospital night shifts and motherhood, she rarely had time for anything else. But Lily made everything worth it. Every exhaustion, every missed party invite, every lonely evening. She had built a small, peaceful life after walking away from the chaos that once broke her heart. She never spoke about him, never needed to. That chapter was closed, or so she thought. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Unknown number. She almost ignored it until a second call followed, then a third. A terrible feeling clawed at her chest. "Hello," she answered, her voice already strained. "Is this Isabella Reyes?" The voice was hurried, nervous. "This is Nurse Kent from Brighton Elementary. Your daughter Lily collapsed during recess. Paramedics are with her now. We're sending her to Memorial Children's Hospital." Time froze. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just moved robotically, instinctively. Keys, wallet, shoes, door. Her heart thundered so violently in her chest it felt like it might rupture. The drive to the hospital was a blur of red lights, unanswered prayers, and every nightmare she had ever imagined as a mother. When she arrived at the emergency entrance, she ran through the sliding doors like a woman possessed. "Lily Reyes, she's 6, brought in from Brighton Elementary," she gasped. The nurse behind the desk gave a clipped nod. "Room 14. Dr. Hahn is with her." Isabella didn't wait for permission. She sprinted down the corridor, the sterile scent of antiseptic and the quiet beeping of machines filling her senses, and there she was. Lily looked impossibly small in that hospital bed, pale, fragile, her curly hair damp with sweat, an oxygen tube resting below her nose. She wasn't laughing, she wasn't singing. Her eyes were half closed, fluttering with effort. Isabella rushed to her side. "Baby, Mummy's here. I'm right here." Lily turned her head slowly. "Mummy, my tummy hurts." Her voice was barely above a whisper. Before Isabella could respond, a man in a white coat entered. "Ms. Reyes, I'm Dr. Hahn. We're still running tests, but Lily is showing signs of acute kidney distress. We've started fluids and stabilizing measures." Isabella's throat tightened. Kidney distress, but she's never had any issues. "We'll know more shortly, but her body is showing signs of organ fatigue. She's going in for an ultrasound now. We'll also run blood and urine tests." For the next 4 hours, Isabella waited. She held Lily's hand through the scans, smiled through her own terror, and whispered lullabies to keep herself from falling apart. The doctors moved efficiently, but their silence was heavier than any words. Just after midnight, Dr. Hahn returned, with 2 other specialists and a clipboard in hand. "Ms. Reyes, may we speak in private?" She shook her head, clutching her daughter's hand tighter. "Just tell me. I don't want it softened. Just say it." The nephrologist stepped forward gently. "Your daughter is in end-stage renal failure. Her kidneys are functioning below 10%. We don't yet know the cause, possibly autoimmune, but the damage is irreversible." Isabella stared at them. Her ears buzzed. Her breath caught. "She need dialysis?" she asked slowly. "Yes," the doctor nodded, "but that's only temporary. She will ultimately need a kidney transplant to survive." That word struck her like a blow to the stomach. How long can she go without a transplant? Not long, the doctor admitted. She's strong, but she's small. If we start dialysis immediately, we can stabilize her. But we need to find a donor. Isabella's legs gave way, and she dropped into the nearest chair. Her baby, her little girl. "I'll be tested," she said firmly. "I'll give her mine." "You'll be tested first," Dr. Hahn agreed. "But be prepared, parent-child matches are only 50% compatible. We may need to explore extended family members, or the National Registry." Extended family. That word stabbed deep. There was no one. Her parents were gone. No siblings, no cousins she spoke to. No one except ... No, not him. The next morning, the test confirmed what she feared. Isabella wasn't a close enough match. The doctors began listing Lily on the donor registry, but the waitlist could take months, even years. Is there anyone else we can test? The transplant coordinator asked gently. Isabella stared down at the floor. Her fingers curled into fists. There was one person. A person who once stood in her life like a burning sun, warm, overwhelming, and dangerous. A man who disappeared without explanation 7 years ago, right after promising her forever. A man who never met his daughter. A man who didn't even know she existed. Lucas Sterling. The name felt like glass in her mouth. He was the one man she had never been able to forget. Not because of the love they shared, but because of how he left. No warning, no note, just silence. And when she tried to reach him, gone, changed numbers, closed doors. She never told him about the pregnancy. At the time, she had convinced herself she didn't need to. She would raise her daughter alone. She would never give him the chance to abandon her child the way he abandoned her. But now, Lily might die, and Lucas Sterling might be her only hope. Isabella stood in the hospital hallway, clutching a slip of paper with his last known company address written on it. Her heart beat like a war drum. She had spent years building walls around herself to keep that part of her past buried. But now, for her daughter, she would tear them all down. She stepped outside into the cold morning air, staring at the horizon. Her fingers trembled around the paper. She had never been so terrified in her life, because this wasn't just about asking for help. This was about knocking on the door of the man who broke her heart, and telling him he had a daughter whose life now depended on him. And Isabella didn't know what scared her more, that he would say no, or that he would say yes. The doors to Sterling Enterprises towered over her like a monument to everything she tried to forget. Isabella hadn't seen the man in over 7 years, but even the cold steel logo on the glass lobby sent a storm of memories surging through her. Not memories of hatred, but the kind that never really leave, the ones that remind you what it felt like to be chosen, then abandoned. She clutched her coat tighter around her body, not from the chill outside, but from the wave of emotion building in her chest. Inside her bag was a folder. Inside that folder, copy of her daughter's medical report, and a birth certificate that named no father. Would he even believe her? She wasn't here for closure, or justice, or answers. She was here because her little girl was slipping away with every passing hour, and the only match with a chance of saving her life might be the man who vanished like smoke. The receptionist barely looked up. "Do you have an appointment?" Isabella cleared her throat. "I need to speak with Lucas Sterling. It's urgent." The woman raised a brow. "I'm sorry, Mr. Sterling doesn't take walk-ins. If you'd like to email, it's about his child," Isabella whispered, her voice cracking. That stopped the woman cold. Her eyes narrowed. "Excuse me." Isabella held out the file. "Please, just tell him someone from his past is here, and it's life or death." 10 long minutes passed before a tall man in a black suit approached. He looked confused but cautious. "Mr. Sterling will see you. Follow me." The elevator ride was silent except for the pounding in Isabella's chest. As the doors opened to the top floor, the air shifted. Sleek marble floors, a panoramic view of the city, and in the center of it all stood the man she once loved, the man who didn't even know he had a daughter. Lucas Sterling turned slowly, his hands in his pockets, wearing the same sharp look in his eyes that used to see right through her. Except this time, there was no warmth. "Isabella," he said, frowning, I thought you moved to New York." She stood still. "I did for a while, but that's not why I'm here." He studied her for a second longer, then motioned for her to sit. "You're shaking. Do you need water?" She sat, but she didn't take the water. She pulled out the folder and set it gently on his desk. "Her name is Lily. She's 6. She's in renal failure. She needs a kidney transplant." Lucas's expression didn't move. He opened the folder and scanned the pages, eyes tightening as he read. "What does this have to do with me?" he finally asked, voice low. She looked up at him. Her face was pale, her hands trembling. "She's your daughter." The words hung in the air like broken glass. Lucas didn't speak. For a long time, he just stared at her, then the file, then back at her. "You're serious?" "I wish I wasn't," she whispered. "She needs a donor. I'm not a match. There's no one else." Silence stretched between them. He leaned back slowly. "You should have told me." "I tried," she said. "You disappeared. You changed your number. You left without a word." "Lucas," He looked down. The truth stung that he didn't argue. I'm not here to reopen anything, she added quickly. I'm not asking for money or a place in your life. I need to know if you'll get tested. That's all I'm asking. For her. Lucas rubbed his jaw, then pushed his chair back. I don't need to think about it. I'll do it. She blinked, stunned. You will. I'm not a monster, Isabella, he said, standing. If she's mine, I'll do whatever it takes. But I need to see her. Her pulse jumped. What? I want to meet her, he said more softly. If she's really my daughter, I need to look in her eyes. Isabella hesitated. Her heart ached with conflict. She wanted to protect Lily from every storm, including the one that once broke her. She had been asking about her father, she admitted, but I told her he was gone. Lucas looked away, pain flickering behind his eyes. I never stopped thinking about you, he murmured. But when I left, it wasn't by choice. She stared at him, her throat tight. Then why did you leave? I'll explain everything, but not here, not now. Let me see her first. She finally nodded. They arrived at the hospital just after noon. Lucas looked like a man walking into a past he didn't deserve to touch. The moment his eyes fell on the tiny figure in the hospital bed, something in him shattered. She was curled beneath a pink blanket, 4 lines snaking from her tiny arm, her eyelids fluttering with sleep. She looks just like you, he whispered. She has your dimples, Isabella said softly. Lucas stepped closer. He knelt beside the bed and touched Lily's hand lightly. Hi, he whispered. I'm a friend of your mum's. Lily stirred, her eyes opening slowly. Are you? The man from the photo. Isabella turned, shocked. What photo? Lily gave a sleepy smile. The one in your old notebook. The smiley man. You said he made you happy before. Isabella blinked back tears. She'd forgotten about that photo, tucked away years ago. Lucas let out a breath, voice trembling. Yeah, that was me. Lily's small hand tightened around his fingers. You're nice, she said, then closed her eyes again. Lucas didn't move for a long time. He stayed beside her, motionless, silent, guilt rippling through every line of his face. Later that evening, blood tests were taken, and the next morning, Dr. Hahn walked in with a file in his hand. You're a match, he said simply. Lucas closed his eyes. I'll do it, he said without hesitation. Schedule the surgery. Whatever she needs, she gets it. Isabella felt her knees weaken again. Relief, fear, and gratitude flooded her all at once. But under it all, something else stirred too. Because this man, the one who disappeared, had come back when she least expected it. And in the process, he might just be saving more than just Lily's life. He might be saving all of them. Asterisk. The night before the transplant, Isabella stood by Lily's bedside, stroking the soft curls from her forehead as monitors beeped quietly around them. The hospital room was dim, painted with shadows, and the hush of machines, but inside Isabella's chest, everything was loud. Memories, doubts, fears, and the unanswered question she hadn't dared speak since Lucas returned. Why did he leave? She'd buried the question for years, convinced the answer didn't matter anymore. But now, watching him through the hospital room window as he spoke with Dr. Hahn, something inside her cracked. The way he had sat with Lily earlier, reading stories and pretending not to cry when she reached out to hold his hand. This wasn't the man who had walked away without a word when Lily drifted into a soft sleep. Isabella stepped out into the hallway. Lucas looked up as she approached. His eyes were red, but steady. She's stronger than I expected, he said. Braver too. She gets that from herself. Isabella replied with a faint smile. Everything else, I had to learn along the way. He hesitated, his hand tightening around the coffee cup in his hand. I never stopped thinking about you. She crossed her arms. Then why didn't you come back, or call, or write? Lucas leaned against the wall, the hallway light casting tired lines on his face. Do you remember the job offer I got back then? The one overseas? She nodded slowly. The design firm in Dubai. I turned it down. Or at least, I thought I had, but my father didn't want me to stay. Said I was wasting my talent and my future on something unstable. He glanced sideways at her. He intercepted my messages, told me you moved on, that you didn't want me. Isabella's mouth parted. Your father told you that. He showed me emails, fake ones, made me believe you had already found someone else. I was halfway around the world, heartbroken and angry, and I figured maybe we weren't meant to be after all. You didn't try to reach me again." "I did," he said quietly. "When I came back a year later, I tried. I went to your old apartment, but you were gone. No forwarding address, no number. I moved after Lily was born," she whispered. "Didn't know how to stay in that space anymore. Everything reminded me of you." Lucas rubbed his eyes. "If I had known, if I had even suspected she was mine." "She's everything," Isabella said. "Every decision, every sleepless night, every shift I picked up I did it all for her. I never wanted her to grow up wondering why her father wasn't there, so I told her he was a good man who had to go away. That's all." Lucas turned to face her fully. "And now that I'm back, what do I tell her after this surgery? That I saved her life, but I'm still a stranger?" Isabella looked down. The ache in her chest spread. "I don't know. One miracle at a time." That night, Lucas sat beside Lily again. They watched cartoons on a tiny tablet, her laughter still soft but genuine, and for a few moments, the hospital faded away. The next morning came too fast. Isabella held Lily's hand as the nurses prepped her for the operating room. Her little body trembled, but she didn't cry. "Mummy," Lily asked. "Yes, sweetheart." "Is he really my dad?" Isabella's heart paused. "Yes, baby, he is." Lily blinked slowly. "He's kind." Tears filled Isabella's eyes. "Yes, he is." The transplant surgery began at dawn. Lucas was wheeled in first. He gave Isabella a look she couldn't read, something between apology and hope before the anesthesia took him under. Then it was Lily's turn. The hours crawled. Isabella paced the waiting room floor until her legs gave out. She sat, stared at the ceiling, prayed and waited. At last, Dr. Hahn walked in, pulling off his surgical mask. "It went well," he said with a tired smile. "The kidney took immediately. She's still sedated, but so far, everything looks good." Isabella burst into tears, the kind of sobs she'd held in for weeks, months, years. "Can I see her?" "In a few hours. For now, rest." "You did it, Mum." But it wasn't just her. When she finally saw Lucas again, he was groggy, pale, but alive, a bandage over his side, his expression gentle. "She's going to be okay," she said. Lucas closed his eyes in relief. "Good. That's all I needed to hear." "Why did you really agree to this so fast?" she asked, sitting beside his bed. He turned his head toward her. "Because no matter what happened, some part of me always loved you, and if my life could mean saving hers, it wasn't even a question." She didn't respond. She couldn't. But in that silence, something new bloomed. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But something close. Hope. The first time Lily opened her eyes after surgery, it was barely a flicker, just a slow blink, followed by a tiny murmur of confusion. But to Isabella, it was the most beautiful sound in the world. She leaned in instantly, brushing her daughter's cheek with trembling fingers. "You're okay, baby. Mommy's here," she whispered, fighting back the flood rising in her throat. Lily's dry lips parted. "Did it work?" Isabella nodded, tears already spilling down her cheeks. "It worked. You going to be okay?" A faint smile touched Lily's face before she drifted back into sleep. The machines beeped softly beside her. The worst was over, but the journey had just begun. Outside the room, Lucas waited in a wheelchair, his hospital gown covered with a blanket. He looked exhausted, paler than she'd ever seen him, but his eyes searched Isabella's face the moment she stepped out. "She's awake," she said quietly. Relief passed through his features like a wave. Thank God. He tried to stand, but winced instantly. Isabella rushed to steady him. "Hey, don't, you're still recovering," she scolded, her voice a little sharper than intended, but her hands lingered a second longer on his arm than necessary. "You don't have to prove anything." Lucas sank back into the chair with a tired chuckle. "I'm not trying to prove anything. I needed to see her awake, breathing, smiling. You will, just, not right now." He looked up at her then, and something shifted between them, something unspoken but heavy. 7 years of silence couldn't erase everything, it seemed. Not the history, not the hurt, and not the invisible string still tying them together through the little girl sleeping inside that room. Later that evening, Isabella sat at Lily's bedside, a coloring book open on her lap, while Lily scribbled slowly with her left hand. The right was still too sore from the fall. Her energy was faint, but her spirit was returning. "Mummy," she whispered, "can he stay?" "Who?" "The man with the kind eyes." Isabella's heart pinched. "You mean Lucas?" Lily nodded. "He makes the room feel warm." Isabella didn't answer right away. She just tucked a blanket tighter around Lily's shoulders and kissed her forehead. "We'll see." But the truth was, she didn't know what came next. The transplant was done. The mission was complete. Technically, Lucas didn't owe them anything anymore. He could walk out that door and return to the life he'd built, leaving only a story behind. But he deemed single quotes to instead. He stayed, not just physically, but fully. He helped the nurses. He brought books. He read bedtime stories with a slightly clumsy voice that made Lily giggle more than once. Every day, Isabella watched him fight his own pain just to be present, and every day, her walls weakened. One afternoon, while Lily slept and Lucas stepped out to call his assistant, a nurse approached Isabella with a clipboard and a warm smile. "He's been asking questions," the nurse said quietly, "about her medications, recovery plan, insurance." Isabella raised an eyebrow. "He's curious. He's involved," the nurse corrected gently. "More than most. I see a lot of fathers come and go, Miss Reyes. But that man, he's not going anywhere." Isabella stared at the empty chair beside Lily's bed. She thought about the night she gave birth alone, the months she worked overtime to afford diapers, the birthdays with just the two of them. And now here he was, like a ghost, stepping back into her story and refusing to leave. That night, after Lily drifted off, Isabella met Lucas outside on the hospital balcony. The city lights twinkled below, and the air was cool with the promise of fall. She asked if he could stay. Isabella said softly, not meeting his gaze. "I want to," he replied without hesitation. "But why?" she asked, voice cracking. "Why now? After all these years?" Lucas turned toward her. "Because I missed everything, and I can't go back. But I can go forward, if you'll let me." She shook her head, eyes stinging. "I don't know if I can trust you again. I don't know if I'll ever stop resenting the years I had to do this alone." "I don't expect you to forgive me overnight," he said. "But I'm not asking for you. I'm asking for her. She deserves both parents if it's possible." The silence between them was thick, painful. "She looks for you in every room now," Isabella said. That didn't take long. Lucas's voice softened. "She's the easiest person I've ever loved." Isabella finally looked up at him, really looked, not at the man he used to be, but at the one standing in front of her now, bruised, scarred, but trying. "You weren't there when she was born," she whispered. "You missed her first steps, her first words." "I know. You broke me," she added, "and I had to put myself back together without even knowing why." "I know," he said again, quieter. "But you saved her life," she said. "And that means something." Lucas's voice cracked. "It means everything." She stood in silence for a long time, letting the wind carry away some of the pain, some of the weight. When she finally turned to walk back inside, she paused. "You can come tomorrow," she said softly. "And the day after that." Lucas blinked. "You're sure?" "No," she replied, with a faint, tired smile. "But I'm willing to try." And for the first time in years, as the hospital lights flickered behind them and the city exhaled below, the future didn't feel so unreachable anymore. Isabella never imagined that healing could be just as terrifying as heartbreak. For years, she had taught herself to survive without asking for help, without looking back, without needing anyone. But now, every day Lucas came to the hospital and sat beside Lily's bed like he belonged there. Her resolve cracked just a little more. Wasn't just what he did, it was how he did it. He remembered Lily's favorite storybooks after only hearing them once. He brought her colored markers when her hands grew strong enough to draw. He learned the nurses' names, remembered medication schedules, and never complained when Lily woke him up asking for water at 3 a.m. He was present. And presence, Isabella realized, was something you couldn't fake. One rainy Thursday morning, nearly 2 weeks after the surgery, Dr. Hahn gathered them in a small consultation room. His tone was calm, but serious. "Lily's recovery is going well. Her vitals are steady, and her body's accepting the kidney without complications so far. But she needs long-term routine monitoring, immune-suppressing medications, and a stable home environment." Isabella nodded. She had already begun researching everything: support groups, transplant care routines, even nutrition plans. Lucas leaned forward. "What can I do to help long-term?" Dr. Hahn studied him for a moment, then said, "Be consistent. Be involved. Emotionally, financially, medically. Transplant success is about more than biology, it's about stability." After the doctor left, Lucas turned to Isabella. "I've been thinking." Her stomach twisted. She didn't know if she was ready for this next part. "I have a guest house," he said carefully. "It's fully equipped. Separate entrance. Quiet. If you and Lily ever wanted, you could stay there during her recovery. No pressure. Just an offer." She stared at him, stunned. "You want us to live with you?" "Not with me," he clarified quickly. "Near me, just until she's stronger. You'd have your own space, you'd be closer to the hospital, and I wouldn't be across the city if something went wrong." Isabella didn't answer right away. The idea of leaning on him even temporarily and her, but the exhaustion in her bones, the strain of commuting from her small apartment every day, and the gnawing worry about the future, all pulled at her in a way that made the offer feel less like a threat, and more like mercy. "I'll think about it," she said finally. 3 days later, she said yes. The move happened quietly, a single suitcase for each of them. Lily was thrilled, calling the guest house the Fairy Cottage, because of the vine-covered gate and tiny fountain in the backyard. For her, it was adventure. For Isabella, it was surrender of control, of pride, of the barriers she'd kept up for so long. But it wasn't as hard as she thought it would be. Lucas respected boundaries. He never pushed. He cooked breakfast some mornings, left fresh flowers at the door once, and only came over when invited. And slowly, impossibly, a rhythm began to form. One evening, Isabella found herself sitting on the porch with him, 2 mugs of tea between them, watching Lily draw on the patio with sidewalk chalk. "She's happy," Lucas said, his voice quiet. "She is," Isabella agreed. He looked at her then, his gaze softer than it had been in years. "I don't know if I deserve this second chance. I don't know if I believe in second chances," she replied. "But I believe in showing up, and you've done that." Lucas reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photo frame, wrinkled. "I carried this with me, even when I was gone." She took it gently. It was the photo she thought she'd lost, the one from the day they decorated her first apartment together. Her hair tied in a scarf, paint on her cheek, him behind, her arms around her waist. "You kept this," she whispered. "Everywhere I went," he said. "Even when I hated myself for leaving, even when I thought I'd never see you again." The silence between them was different, now not cold, not sharp, just full. "I'm not who I used to be," she said after a long moment. "Neither am I." Isabella closed her eyes. "Then maybe that's why this works." That night, she sat beside Lily as she fell asleep, then stayed awake just a bit longer, staring out the window at the moonlight pouring through the garden. She still didn't know what the future looked like, but for the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of it. Isabella didn't notice at first. It began with the little things: the way Lucas waited for her to speak first in conversations, the way he made her tea exactly how she liked it without asking, the way Lily would instinctively reach for his hand when crossing a room, or how her laughter came quicker now, fuller, like her little heart had forgotten what fear felt like. One evening, as the wind hummed through the tall cypress trees outside the cottage, Lucas surprised her with a question. "What would have happened if I hadn't left back then?" She looked up from the book in her lap. He was sitting across from her, shoulders tense, like he wasn't asking for curiosity, but for permission to regret. "I don't know," she said honestly. "Maybe we would have had a child and loved her together. Maybe we would have fought every day. Maybe we would have fallen apart anyway." Lucas nodded slowly, his jaw tight. I think about it more than I should. The kind of man I could have been if I hadn't been so afraid." Her eyes softened. "And yet here you are." He chuckled, a breath between sadness and gratitude. "Do you think it's too late for more?" That question lingered in the air for days, not because she didn't have an answer, but because she wasn't ready to say it out loud. Then something shifted. It was a Thursday morning, early enough that the sun hadn't fully risen, and Isabella woke to the sound of Lily laughing in the garden. She wrapped herself in a shawl and stepped outside to see Lucas in a silly apron, flipping pancakes on an outdoor griddle, while Lily held a spatula and called herself Chef Lily the Brave. And Isabella's heart did something quieted. For the first time in years, it felt like it wasn't defending itself. That evening, she pulled a box from her closet. It was old, taped around the edges, but inside were all the things she hadn't let herself remember: photos, cards, ultrasound pictures, tiny shoes she never returned to the store. She carried it across the garden and placed it on Lucas's lap. "I kept them," she said simply, "even when I hated you, even when I swore I'd never let you close again." His hands trembled as he opened it. A small cry escaped his throat as he picked up a photo of the ultrasound. their daughter's name written in the corner. You named her Grace, he whispered. She never made it, Isabella said, tears brimming, but she existed. For a while, she was ours. Lucas bowed his head. I should have been there. You weren't, she said, steady but kind. But you're here now. And maybe we don't get to rewrite the past, but we get to write something new. He looked up at her, tears on his face, raw and unguarded. Can I ask you something crazy? She raised a brow, half smiling through the ache. Depends how crazy. Don't answer yet. Just let me ask. She nodded. What if we didn't just try again? What if we created something better? Not because we're the same people, but because we've both become more. Isabella swallowed hard. You mean, I want to build a life with you. I want Lily to have both of us. I want mornings with pancakes and midnight talks and even the messy days, all of it. Not out of guilt or history, but because I'm ready now. Her heart raced. You're serious? I've never been more. She looked toward the house, where Lily's light was still on. Then back to the man who had broken her heart, and somehow helped heal it. I don't want a perfect story, Lucas. I'm not offering one, he said. Just a true one. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. Then, yes, no dramatic kiss, no fireworks, just his hand reaching for hers, and hers not pulling away. The next morning, Lily drew a picture with 3 stick figures and a crooked heart above them. When Isabella asked her what it was, Lily simply said, us, a family, finally, and for once, Isabella didn't feel like she had to be strong alone, because love had come back, not as a rescue, but as a choice. The end.